The movie begins at Ichikawa High School, nestled in a quiet Japanese town. In a senior classroom, students receive their latest test results. Among them is Miyamoto Asuka, a cheerful but academically struggling girl. Despite the test being the easiest so far, she scores an embarrassing 0. Her ever-optimistic boyfriend, Yoshida, tries to lighten the mood, joking that 0 must be her lucky number. Their light-hearted banter earns them a scolding from their teacher, who sternly warns Asuka that without serious effort, her future looks grim. Soon, another dreaded history test looms. The first question asks for the name of a monument famous for granting wishes when offered a coin. Clueless, Asuka scribbles a random answer, Gachimo. As her pencil touches the page, a bright light flashes outside the window. Somewhere in the city, a mysterious jungle path begins to materialize. The next day, on their way to school, Asuka and Yoshida stumble upon a strange new pathway that wasn't there before. Intrigued, they decide to explore. After a short walk, they find themselves in front of an ancient shrine with an unpronounceable name. Asuka tosses a coin into the shrine and wishes for a miracle, a perfect score on her next test. Feeling hopeful, she and Yoshida return to school. The following day, test results arrive. Asuka scores a dismal 5 out of 100. Frustrated, she scoffs at herself for putting faith in the shrine's supposed power. Later that day, the class faces another quiz, this time about world politics. The first question asks for the name of Japan's current prime minister. Clueless, Asuka cheekily writes down Yoshida's name. With no idea how to answer the rest, she gives up and takes a nap. After school, Asuka invites Yoshida over to her house. As they step inside, they're greeted by the sound of her parents arguing. Her father, a struggling salesman on the verge of losing his job, and her mother, involved in an affair with a younger man. Asuka brushes it off, urging Yoshida to ignore the chaos, and leads him to her room. On the way, he notices a stack of empty dishes outside a closed door. She explains it belongs to her twin brother, Kasuke. Once a prodigy who never scored less than perfect in school, Kasuke's reputation crumbled when he failed his high school entrance exam. The humiliation was too much for him to bear, and ever since, he's locked himself away, refusing to leave his room. Kasuke never talks to anyone and spends all his time on the computer playing games. Yoshida jokes, trying to lighten the mood as Asuka sulks after mentioning her brother's situation. To cheer her up, Yoshida heads to the supermarket to grab something for them to eat. Meanwhile, back at school, their teacher sits grading test papers. Suddenly, the mysterious shrine from before begins to glow, and so do the teacher's glasses. Asuka grows impatient and calls Yoshida, asking why he's taking so long. To her surprise, he nervously claims he's terribly busy and won't be able to hang out. Moments after the call, she receives a frantic text from a classmate. Yoshida is in huge trouble. Confused, she checks her phone, only to find that videos of Yoshida posing for cameras as Japan's new prime minister are going viral on social media. Bewildered, Asuka struggles to connect the dots. Her boyfriend had gone to buy snacks, and now he's leading the country. Then again, people have been elected for less. The next day at school, the buzz is all about the bizarre news of Yoshida's sudden political ascension and rumors of presidents from various countries mysteriously vanishing. Asuka arrives, still reeling from the chaos, when their teacher hands back the graded papers with a wide grin. To her shock, she scored a perfect 100, despite leaving most of the quiz blank. Examining her paper, Asuka realizes the horrifying truth. Yoshida became the prime minister because she wrote his name on the test. Similarly, the president's disappearances correlate to the questions she skipped entirely. The power of the shrine is far more real and far more dangerous than she ever imagined. The shrine grants Asuka's wish, but not in the way she imagined. Now, the world bends to her test answers to ensure she scores full marks. Desperate to fix her blunder, she Googles the correct answers and rewrites them on the test paper. Miraculously, her plan works. Yoshida is promptly fired from his one-day stint as prime minister. The missing world leaders are restored and everything returns to normal. Soon, it's time for the next test. This time, Asuka feels no pressure. After all, nothing catastrophic can come from a math test, or so she thinks. After school, Yoshida meets her, still reeling from his whirlwind political career. Asuka tries to calm him down and decides to tell him the truth about her bizarre power. Skeptical, Yoshida challenges her to prove it by writing something down. Before she can, however, chaos erupts. A tower in the middle of town starts wobbling like jelly. Realizing this must be due to a mistake she made on the math test, the pair rushes to the teacher's room and corrects her answer. The tower immediately stabilizes, baffling experts on TV, who are at a loss to explain the anomaly. On their way home, Asuka and Yoshida return to where the shrine once stood, only to find it has disappeared without a trace. With no way to locate it and no memory of its its name, Asuka accepts that the only way to prevent further disasters is to study hard and answer every question correctly. That night, she resolves to give it her all but falls asleep moments after opening her books. In the following scene, she and Yoshida are anxiously waiting outside the teacher's room as he grades her latest test. To no one's surprise, Asuka scores full marks again. This time, she prays her answers haven't drastically altered reality. Returning home, she is greeted by her father, who is beaming with excitement. He's just made the biggest sale of his career. In her last test, Asuka unknowingly wrote that tap water was the most valuable source of energy, triggering a global surge in demand for water purifiers. To her surprise, this unintended shift made her father incredibly wealthy, leaving him happier than she'd ever seen. Later that day, however, news reports flood in about riots erupting worldwide over water shortages. Realizing the gravity of her mistake, Asuka quickly corrects her test paper, restoring the world to normal. This time, she decides to use her power more deliberately. Inspired, she devises a plan to fix her parents' failing marriage. In the next test, she's asked to name the astronaut set to embark on a long space mission. Without hesitation, she writes her mother's boyfriend's name. The next day, he's suddenly announced as the chosen astronaut and leaves Earth for his mission. The breakup with her mother follows shortly after, prompting her mom to refocus on her family and marriage. For a while, Asuka's life feels perfect. Now, the only person left to help is her twin brother, Kasuk. In her next test, she answers with, "Kasuk will come out and say good morning to everyone." The result isn't what she anticipated. Instead of Kasuk stepping out, their father storms into his room, dragging him out by force. This sparks a massive argument. Her father reveals he's once again at risk of losing his job, and her mother has started texting other men. It finally dawns on Asuka that her power only provides temporary fixes. It can't solve the root of her problems. Determined to make a genuine change, she begins sitting outside Kasuk's door every day, studying out loud. Despite her countless mistakes, Kasuk initially ignores her efforts. Days pass until one afternoon, frustrated by her skipping a challenging math problem, Kasuk speaks for the first time. He opens his door just enough to teach her how to solve it. With her brother Kasuk's guidance, though only through a closed door, Asuka begins studying harder than ever. Her father starts reading self-help books for salesmen and puts renewed effort into his job, while her mother inexplicably deletes all her lover's contacts and focuses on her family. Why? Who knows, but it works. A week later, Asuka scores full marks on a test entirely on her own for the first time. Elated, she rushes to Kasuk's door to share the news, but he refuses to come out. Even so, the following morning brings a surprise. As the family sits down for breakfast, Kasuk finally emerges from his room. He greets them warmly, apologizes to his father for giving up, and promises to do better moving forward. And Asuka feels that everything might finally be okay. One day, on their way to school, Asuka and Yoshida discover the torn pieces of her first test paper inside her bag. Curious, she pieces it back together, and to her shock, a glowing passageway to the shrine appears. Examining the test, she notices something she hadn't before. Her first answer was Gauchimo, the name of a wish-granting shrine. The realization hits her. The shrine must have been created by her imagination. The couple races to the shrine and begs it to reverse her original wish, restoring the world to its normal state. They wait anxiously for a sign, but nothing changes. Disappointed, they return to school. That day, the teacher announces yet another test, this time on world geography and population. Asuka suddenly recalls that the shrine granted her wish because she offered a coin. To undo the wish, she realizes she needs to retrieve the coin. Determined, she rushes through her test, scribbling down answers as quickly as possible, and heads to the shrine. There, she discovers the coin inside a locked chest. Using a stick, she carefully tries to fish it out, coming tantalizingly close to success. Elsewhere, her family sits together for the first time in years. Kasuk, finally past his self-imposed exile, talks excitedly about his plans for the future. His father beams with pride, while his mother apologizes for the pain she caused her husband. The family resolves their differences. Meanwhile, Asuka's teacher sits at his desk, grading the latest test papers. When he reaches Asuka's, he smiles, another perfect score, as expected. At that moment, back at the shrine, Asuka accidentally drops the coin back into the chest. Suddenly, the chest glows with an intense, blinding light. Asuka is thrown backward, and in the blink of an eye, everything goes silent. The city, the country, and the entire world are eerily still, completely devoid of people. Every human being has vanished without a trace. In the final scene, we see Asuka's test paper lying on the teacher's desk. The last question asks, what is the current world population? Asuka had left it blank. By failing to answer, she inadvertently erased humanity. The end. Thanks for watching.